All things considered, 2024 has been an exceptional year when it comes to high-quality filmmaking. Both massive blockbuster franchises like Dune, Part 2 and Inside Out 2 are doing just as well with critics as they are with audiences, and even smaller, artsy films like I Saw the TV Glow and Kinds of Kindness are seeing widespread acclaim. With great films being released in nearly every genre, there are sure to be at least a few films from this year that connect with each person. However, for every acclaimed masterpiece and box office success, there has also been a selection of films that accomplished the opposite, being disastrous critical misses whose only notoriety is infamy. Whether it be largely anticipated films that failed to live up to the hype or poorly executed misfires that were always going to flop with audiences, 2024 had numerous terrible films, and fans haven't been afraid to show their takes on these train wrecks. Number 15 is Miller's Girl. Especially for the younger film fans that make up the Letterboxd community, more sensual and erotic stories can be largely lambasted when they aren't executed well, as so prominently seen with Miller's Girl. The film follows a scandalous romance that begins to blossom between a talented young writer, Jenna Ortega, and her creative writing teacher, Martin Freeman. Despite their clear age difference, she finds an alluring nature to his maturity, while the teacher finds himself constantly fighting his urges and attempts to stay faithful to his wife. It's a genuine shame that Miller's Girl is as painfully underwhelming as it is, as a story about the difficulties of age-based power dynamics couldn't be more timely and appropriate than the present. However, Miller's Girl doesn't have any nuance or exceptional takeaways to provide the audience with, instead treating its generic characters as cardboard caricatures to spin a grossly problematic execution. Both Ortega and Freeman have proven that they can be a part of exceptional work, with their talents being severely wasted by this film.
I read the whole list.
Well, there's 12 books on that list.
Party hard.
Number 14 is Descendants, The Rise of Red. The Descendants franchise has proven to be one of the most successful and acclaimed Disney Channel franchises of recent memory, taking a unique modern coming-of-age spin on classic Disney characters. However, the latest spin-off film released straight to Disney, Descendants, The Rise of Red, proved to be a major disappointment in the eyes of fans despite its record-breaking numbers. The film follows the daughters of the Queen of Hearts and Cinderella, Red and Chloe, traveling back in time to undo the events that turned the Queen of Hearts into a villain. While its concept proved to be exciting for fans, everything surrounding the execution and differences from the main series quickly turned many die-hard Descendants fans away from this spin-off. Each of the films in the main series was largely the vision of director Kenny Ortega, and his lack of involvement with the spin-off results in a lack of style and inherent charm. The film's lack of a true climax or ending, alongside the toned-down undertones and LGBTQ themes, made it a wildly divisive and unenjoyable experience for many fans of the franchise.
My first order of business will be making sure all the kingdoms are welcome, even Wonderland.
Number 13 is Beautiful Wedding. An unexpected sequel to the equally maligned Beautiful Disaster, Beautiful Wedding is yet another romantic comedy that follows the complicated relationship of Abby, Virginia Gardner, and Travis, Dylan Sprouse. The couple wake up after a wild night in Vegas to learn that they accidentally became newlyweds, and with the mob right behind them, they decide to flee to Mexico for a wild honeymoon. However, drama and jealousy prove to still be present in their relationship, as the foundation of their marriage begins to crumble. Following in similar footsteps of the infamous After franchise, Beautiful Wedding and its predecessor are both adapted directly from adult romance novels written on Wattpad, which serves to explain the painful writing and characterization throughout the film. Wattpad stories as a whole are tailor-made specifically for the adult online audience and have rarely ever made a successful jump to the cinematic world. It doesn't help that the film is obscenely erotic in all the wrong ways and has little end goals for its storytelling aside from making its attractive stars look appealing on screen.
What the hell happened last night? Abby?
Last night.
Number 12 is The Merry Gentleman. Easily one of the most shocking and strange concepts for a holiday romantic comedy, The Merry Gentleman's wild concept finds itself oddly neutered due to its abundance of clichés and PG rating. The film sees a Broadway dancer being fired due to her age, traveling back home to the small town where she grew up in hopes of refuge. However, when learning that her parents' beloved nightclub is going under, she hatches a plan to raise the funds to save their small-town staple by creating an all-male, Christmas-themed revue. There's an inherent disconnect between creating a PG-rated romantic comedy and its main draw being shirtless male strippers, with The Merry Gentleman never truly justifying or balancing its completely different tones and styles. Ironically, both aspects of the film simply don't go far enough to make for a remotely interesting experience, as the erotic dancing is held back by its family-friendly approach while the romantic story is as bare bones and generic as it gets.
We are gonna make this show something truly special. Something this town has never seen before.
Number 11 is Night Swim. Horror movies with strange and comedically absurd concepts are far from new. Some of the most beloved horror movies of all time derive from seemingly ridiculous concepts. However, sometimes, a premise proves to be so mind-bogglingly idiotic that it completely suspends all notions of reality, taking the film in a downward spiral. One such case is Night Swim, this year's signature January horror film, which follows the story of a mysterious force that does all of its killing in a backyard swimming pool. Night Swim lives up to its idiotic premise in the best, so bad it's good way possible, finding ways to make an already dumb concept even dumber with its arrays of twists and self-serious thematic. Even well after its release, it's still baffling that a horror movie where the imposing threat is a killer swimming pool not only exists but was given a wide release in theaters and distributed by Blumhouse. It's certainly worth a watch to see just how chaotic it gets, but Letterboxd users have been quick to point and laugh at just how moronic it all is.
Marco.
Number 10 is Prey. Not to be confused with the critically acclaimed prequel to the Predator franchise, 2024's Prey sees a young couple forced to leave their missionary station in the Kalahari Desert after being threatened by an extremist militant gang. However, their escape aircraft ends up crashing, with the couple finding themselves stuck in a reserve filled with lions and cheetahs hunting for their next meal. The various survivors are now forced to fight for their lives against the beasts of the desert. While the film's premise is basic enough to have some potential, its complete lack of competent special effects and egregiously painful performances make it difficult to take the thriller seriously. The film goes out of its way to rarely ever show the beasts that are slowly taking away and devouring the survivors, giving the film the feeling and energy of a low-budget shark movie with sharks. The film grows dull well before it even has the chance to get interesting, being one of the worst horror thrillers of recent memory.
People are dying! We need a plan!
Number 9 is Mother of the Bride. One of the tried and true types of low-effort cliché-filled films that has overwhelmed Netflix over the years is the romantic comedy, with their clear bottom-of-the-barrel film of this year being Mother of the Bride. The film follows what initially seems to be a standard tropical wedding in Thailand before the revelation that the mother of the bride and the father of the groom used to date in the past. As they attempt to avoid each other, they end up unintentionally rekindling their relationship, placing a strain on the standard wedding proceedings. One of the tried and true types of low-effort cliché-filled films that has overwhelmed Netflix over the years is the romantic comedy, with their clear bottom-of-the-barrel film of this year being Mother of the Bride. While on the surface, Mother of the Bride doesn't seem to do that much differently than other low-effort, generic romantic comedies, its execution and premise quickly enter into a realm of discomfort. It doesn't take a genius to see the film heading towards this older couple getting back together, putting into question the central marriage, considering the couple getting married is about to become step-siblings. It serves to sour what was already a largely underwhelming experience, making Mother of the Bride a noticeable dud compared to Netflix's other rom-com offerings.
Whoa!
What are you doing?
I'm leaving.
Number 8 is Borderlands. Adapted from the successful video game franchise, Borderlands attempted to tap into the same levels of chaotic, violent mischief that made the game such a smash hit but couldn't translate it to the big screen. Loosely based on the story of the first game of the series, the film follows a group of ragtag bandits and misfits as they travel across the destructive wasteland planet Pandora. Between all the psychos and hostile aliens, the planet actually holds a secret vault that is said to have untold riches and secrets of the universe. Borderlands harkens back to a previous era of video game movies where studios simply didn't care about how well they adapted the story or characters of the source material, hoping name recognition would be enough to lead them to success. The ironic part is that, on top of butchering the story of the games and neutering the violence to a PG-13 rating, the film's humor is mostly in line with the series' approach, which is largely dated by now. What was funny in 2012 simply doesn't work 12 years later. Borderlands is a waste of everyone's time, not even having the type of so bad it's good value some of the year's worst releases have.
We have something they don't, baby girl.
Okay. What?
Major issues.
Alright folks. Listen up. If you are enjoying the content of this channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give the video a good old-fashioned thumbs up. Let's show the creators some love. Number 7 is Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. SpongeBob SquarePants as a franchise has had massive fluctuations of quality in recent memory, with the main series remaining enjoyable but spin-off shows like The Patrick Star Show and Camp Coral being hated by fans. Easily the most widely maligned and hated piece of SpongeBob media lately has been the spin-off movie, Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie, which by all accounts was a massive downgrade from the previous SpongeBob films. The film sees Sandy and SpongeBob traveling to Texas to save Bikini Bottom from a dastardly new villain who stole the entire town from the ocean floor. SpongeBob has been a series that is largely defined by its humor and characters, making it all the more awful that the Sandy Cheeks movie is some of the unfunniest that the franchise has ever been. While it attempts to breathe new life and depth into Sandy, it does so only by introducing annoying new side characters and creating an unnecessary origin that goes against classic episodes of the series. The film was also in dicey waters after it was leaked in its entirety at the beginning of the year, disappointing fans from the get-go before not changing a thing when it was officially released 8 months later.
What? I washed my hands!
Number 6 is Indian 2, Zero Tolerance. One of the biggest trends that helps set Letterboxd apart from other online film sites is its increased focus on films from all cultures, thanks to its global user base and heightened awareness of global filmmaking. While this normally results in getting more eyes placed on exceptional international filmmaking, it can also have the opposite effect, showing off the worst that other cultures have to offer, such is the case for Indian 2, Zero Tolerance. A sequel to the acclaimed action thriller from 1996, Indian 2 is the type of cheap, obvious cash grab that is often seen in Hollywood filmmaking instead of the normally rich and exciting world of Indian cinema. On top of the obvious attempts to garner goodwill from past projects, Indian 2 was rife with controversy, from outdated politics to an accident causing multiple deaths on set. To many audiences, Letterboxd users included, Indian 2 simply came across as not only unnecessary but actively going against what made the original film so great.
கேரியர்ல நான் முடிக்காம போன ஒரே ஒரு கேஸ் சேனாபதி.
பேசாம இவனை ஆன்டி-இந்தியன் அறிவிச்சிரலாமா?
Number 5 is The Tearsmith. The last thing romance movies are usually trying to accomplish is to unnerve and gross out their audience, but Netflix's The Tearsmith utterly fails at that. The Italian romantic drama follows the blossoming romance between Nika and Rigel, two young adults who were adopted together after spending a painful childhood together in an orphanage. Despite their familial ties to one another, the duo simply cannot help but instigate and explore the emotional feelings they have toward one another. Step-sibling romance is the type of premise that sounds less like an actual romantic drama and more like a joke that would be made on a sketch comedy series. Still, the Tearsmith goes all in on its borderline incestuous romance, making the brother-sister dynamic between the two all the more apparent as it guides and shapes the narrative of the film. Instead of coming across as a sensual forbidden romance, the film comes across as gross and uncomfortable, cementing it as one of the lowest-rated Netflix original movies on Letterboxd.
Al Grave avevamo tante storie. La più conosciuta era quella del fabbricante di lacrime.
Number 4 is Madam Web. Superhero movies have had a rocky and chaotic reception throughout the 2020s, with a mixed bag of high highs like The Batman and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, as well as low lows like Morbius and The New Mutants. Madam Web joins the ranks as one of the worst entries the genre has seen, with a chaotic and muddled production creating a goldmine of so bad it's good pandemonium. The film follows paramedic Cassandra Webb, who, after obtaining the power to see into the future, sees herself protecting a trio of young women from a mysterious villain set on killing them. Madam Web feels like the full culmination of every issue and downside plaguing modern would-be franchises in the wake of the success of the MCU, failing to scratch the surface of understanding what made it work so well. There are certainly attempts to tell an exciting chapter to flesh out Sony's Spider-Man universe, but the stilted performances, baffling editing decisions, and regurgitated references make it a comically bad misfire. Madam Web will only continue to grow in infamy as time goes on, much like Morbius before it.
I don't understand what's happening. I knew he was gonna die.
Number 3 is Uglies. Film adaptations of dystopian young adult novels were a prevalent trend throughout the 2010s, yet were largely phased out following the failure of films like the Divergent series. However, showing up late to the party and perpetuating the worst clichés of the genre is Uglies, a film that unintentionally comes across as a parody due to how formulaic and generic it is. The film takes place in a future society where newly born humans are sent off to a school until they turn 16, in which they are given mandatory cosmetic surgery to transform them into their most beautiful selves. It isn't difficult to point out the numerous flaws that plague Uglies, from the supposed ugly-looking characters still being conventionally beautiful Hollywood stars to any message of conformity being thrown out the window when the beauty procedure is also a forced lobotomy. The film feels like it was supposed to be released a decade prior, with lackluster visual effects and a watered-down message of rising up against a corrupt government. It's easily one of the worst dystopian movies of all time and has been subsequently mocked by the Letterboxd for its seemingly endless flaws.
I wanted to be pretty. I thought it would change everything. I hope that's still true.
Number 2 is The Mousetrap. One of the strangest and most unexpected horror trends of the 2020s has been the usage of newly available public domain characters as the killers in cheap, bottom-of-the-barrel slashers, popularized by Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. The Mousetrap, previously titled Mickey's Mousetrap, is the latest of this trend, seeing the classic Steamboat Willie version of Mickey Mouse as a deranged killer. Blood and Honey was already at the bottom of the barrel in terms of these cheap public domain cash grabs, yet The Mousetrap managed to one-up that film in its dull, uninspired attempts to make money off of a recognizable name. It does the absolute bare minimum in terms of character motivation, scares, or even just basic pacing, going beyond what could be a fun, so bad it's good experience and just becoming a boring, underwhelming slog to get through. One would hope that this would mean the end of this subgenre of public domain horror, but with many more on the way, this dire trend is sadly only just beginning.
This is serious.
It is, so stop playing childish games.
Number 1 is Megamind vs. The Doom Syndicate. There is no greater way to completely rile up and enrage a group of film fans than for a long-awaited sequel to not just disappoint but completely ignore and spit in the face of everything a classic stood for. This shocking juxtaposition is what quickly shot Megamind vs. The Doom Syndicate into being one of the lowest-rated movies on Letterboxd, tarnishing the legacy of its predecessor, one of the most rewatchable animated movies of the 2010s. Coming out 14 years after the original film, this sequel's low budget made it dead on arrival and an embarrassment on all fronts. Clearly, Megamind vs. The Doom Syndicate wasn't created because there was an inspired, new story to tell with these characters.
That's me, Megamind, master of all villainy. Until I realized my destiny was to be a superhero.